Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're taking a look at a game that started one of my absolute favorite fighting series, and that's Garou Densetsu, aka Fatal Fury, for the Neo Geo CD, but it's also available on a ton of other platforms, including the AES, SNES, and Mega Drive. It was obviously developed and published by SNK, and it was originally released way back in 1991, shortly after the release of Street Fighter II, and one thing I've always preferred about Fatal Fury over Street Fighter II is the story. Street Fighter never really had a strong or gripping narrative, but Fatal Fury features an awesome revenge plot about the Bogard brothers seeking revenge against Geese Howard for killing their father years before, and so we get some cool cutscenes and a very satisfying conclusion that I think overshadows the various ending sequences in Street Fighter. It's very reminiscent of a cheesy 80s martial arts film starring Jean-Claude Van Damme or maybe Don the Dragon Wilson. I've heard it said a million times that Fatal Fury is a Street Fighter II clone, but I don't really think that's accurate. I personally think it's more of a refined version of the original Street Fighter, which isn't a surprise when you take into account that the lead designer was Takashi Nishiyama, the creator of Street Fighter. You only have 3 playable characters to choose from, which would be a problem in pretty much any other fighting game, but honestly, if Terry Bogard was the only playable character, I'd still be satisfied because, as we all know, Terry is a total badass. In terms of the gameplay itself, though, this really does feel like an improved version of the original Street Fighter, though you only have 2 attack buttons and a throw button, which accommodates the Neo Geo's 4-button layout, special moves that for the most part mirror what you would get in a Street Fighter game, though I will say that some of the button commands are a little awkward, especially for Joe and Andy. Plus, this game introduced the ability to jump back and forth between the foreground and background, which I always thought was a cool ability that added a little more depth to an otherwise very simple and straightforward game. Just choose your character, battle your way through a field of other fighters, and play the occasional bonus game. Not terribly deep, but as long as it plays well, then I've got no complaints, and Fatal Fury definitely does play well. I don't think its controls are as refined as Street Fighter II's, but I can't imagine anyone having much difficulty adjusting to them. The same can't be said for all of the ports of this game, but Fatal Fury on Neo Geo hardware at least is arcade perfect and plays great. Definitely one of my favorite classic fighting games to pop in and kill a little time with.
Versus Kung Fu Roo. Round 1. Fight!
I think perhaps the most standout feature of Fatal Fury, and ultimately what makes it so memorable, is the characters and presentation. My first time playing a game in this series left a big impression on me because I loved the designs of all the characters. They each just seemed to have a ton of personality, and I was interested in their backstories as a result of that. This game in particular features a very colorful and vibrant visual style that I really like. Each stage features a high degree of detail, whether it be onlookers in the background, waves crashing on the beach, or trains passing back and forth. Plus, each round brings with it changes from day to night, and even some weather effects, as with Tung Fu Ru's stage where it starts raining in the second round. I really like little details like these, and as I said before, I love the character designs in this game, so overall the graphics in Fatal Fury get a huge thumbs up from me. The soundtrack does as well. There are definitely some very catchy and enjoyable tunes here. One thing of note is that while most games that were ported to the Neo Geo CD ended up with arranged soundtracks, Fatal Fury keeps the original arcade soundtrack 100% intact. I don't think the music is anywhere near as memorable as that of Street Fighter II, but it's still very good. Plus, the voice samples are great too, even if it is almost impossible to understand any of what's being said. Overall, the original Fatal Fury was a very well-designed game with great graphics and excellent sound design to go on top of its fun and addictive gameplay. An instant classic, in my opinion. So, this is a game that I highly recommend to 2D fighting fans who might not have tried it yet. It's not perfect, but it is a lot of fun. If you go looking for a copy online, you'll find that the Neo Geo AES and CD versions can be pretty pricey, which is typical, but there are plenty of other options available to you. You could always go for the Mega Drive or SNES ports, which aren't nearly as good, but are a whole hell of a lot cheaper. You could pick up the Fatal Fury Collection for the PlayStation 2 and enjoy the whole series that way, or just download it for the Virtual Console or PlayStation Network. No matter which route you take, you're almost guaranteed to enjoy Fatal Fury. It's an absolute classic, and it's awesome.